February 2000, and the British police force is still reeling from the crisis that engulfed it last year, when an independent inquiry branded the police institutionally racist. On the first anniversary of that report, we ask, has anything changed? Or is there still an underlying assumption in police investigations that black lives are cheaper than white? Back in October 1997, 20-year-old computer science student Ricky Reel went for a night out with 3 friends. They were attacked by 2 young white men, and the friends ran in different directions. When Ricky failed to return home later that night, his mother contacted the police.
My husband, my brother, and the witnesses who were attacked went to the police station and said, my friend, we were attacked, could you take a statement? We were racially attacked. Could you take a statement? The police didn't want to bother. The police didn't want to know. They didn't take a statement. And instead of saying to the family, we are sorry, we will do what we can, they started abusing us, saying Ricky's run away with a girlfriend or boyfriend.
The police refused to launch an immediate investigation, so Sukhdev's family and friends did the job themselves.
For example, going into late-night buses with Ricky's photograph, going into shops, clubs, we formed a human chain and looked for our son. How many white families do this kind of investigation, whereas we were left to look for our sons, for Ricky ourselves?
On the second day, they located crucial security camera footage of the night Ricky disappeared. The police, meanwhile, were pursuing other lines of inquiry.
Second or the third day, lots of police officers just barged into my house. No explanation given even up to now. They started searching my house. What were they searching for? That I've killed my son and hid him somewhere?
A week after Ricky was last seen, the news they feared came.
A police officer came in and said they found my son's body from the bottom of the river. I don't remember very much because at that time I passed out. When I went in, I found out that there were 2 police officers in my house, and they did not wait for my return. They just went into my house and told my 11-year-old son that they found his brother's body from the bottom of the river. And my 17-year-old daughter, who was with him, had an asthma attack right in front of the 2 police officers, who continued to laugh and joke about, I don't know what, they found it amusing. So how many families, how many white families have suffered that fate? No one, to my knowledge.
The police investigation concluded that Ricky's death was accidental. He'd fallen while trying to urinate into the river. But in November last year, an inquest was held, and the jury decided that no one could be sure how Ricky had died. They delivered an open verdict. The family felt they'd won a small victory, but that the police had still failed them.
Our family did not get this level of service which we had every right to expect. And my own conclusion is I didn't get that service because I'm black.
The Reel family are represented by human rights barrister Michael Mansfield QC, who's worked with many other black families over the last 10 years.
They're all saying the same thing. One, they're not taken seriously by the police force that's investigating, unfortunately in many cases, the death of a loved one. They feel isolated, they feel demeaned, they don't get answers to the questions they ask, and even when they do provide information, that information isn't acted upon.
Resentment towards the police had been building throughout Britain's ethnic minorities since the 1980s. The widely held view was that the police did not value black life as highly as white. And with almost a quarter of Londoners being non-white, the police were seen to be failing a large proportion of their citizens. It was in February last year that this resentment came to a very public showdown, after yet another bungled police investigation into yet another murder of a young black man. At 10:30 p.m. on April the 22nd, 1993, 18-year-old Stephen Lawrence waited with a friend for a bus in southeast London. A gang of 5 white men shouting racial abuse approached them. The 2 friends ran, but Stephen was caught and stabbed in the chest. He died on the roadside, surrounded by a crowd of police officers, none of whom administered even the most basic first aid. The police investigations into his death were so flawed that none of the killers have ever been brought to justice.
But I just couldn't sit back and allow the police, the justice system to say, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. I wanted more.
So began her fight for justice. Together with her husband Neville, Doreen Lawrence fought a 6-year campaign, which resulted finally in the new Labour government ordering an independent inquiry into the bungled police investigation. The year-long inquiry uncovered a catalogue of errors: evidence lost, leads not followed, witnesses ignored, suspects not arrested. In February last year, the inquiry published the Macpherson Report with its devastating conclusion. The police failings were not due solely to incompetence, but also to a deep-seated racism running throughout the British police force. Institutional racism.
It's not a difficult concept. All it's trying to convey is that this kind of racism is inbuilt into a system. It's systemic. In other words, it's a set of reactions that people have towards a situation in which they are discriminating against somebody because they are black.
London's police chief grudgingly accepted the findings of the report, admitting that they were institutionally racist and did need to change. But inside the police stations, opinion was divided.
When I joined, the Met was an openly racist organisation in which racist language was the norm in every aspect of the organisation.
I've not seen any officer in 12 years who has been out and out racist because even in the last 5 minutes, particularly today, even in the last 5 minutes, because we're so politically correct now that you don't know what's happening. You don't know who to trust, you don't know who to speak to.